what I need you to understand is that your state has come full circle. Today, Nigeria is a dictatorship. We are not in a democracy. So if you are expecting something to happen because politicians are squabbling over who won or did not win an election, you're wasting your time. So if you're waiting for an election to save Nigeria, you've lost already. Let me just announce that. The only thing that can save us is a revolution. Did you hear me? Only a revolution can save Nigeria. Because the sum of his lies is that Nigeria has become a place that is unconducive for human existence. It's become hostile. If you sustain the current system, Nigeria will erupt in a civil war.
Hello everyone and welcome back. Happy Sunday to you all. So this is another bombshell from Dele Farotimi. You guys know that he always speaks truth to power. And in this video, he specifically talked about those that are still dreaming to make Nigeria a better country through voting. That is not going to happen, that we are just wasting our time. That the only solution is revelation. You guys know that he has been saying this for a very long time. But in this particular video today, he really said a lot of things, which I would love you guys to relax and listen and hear everything Dele Farotimi said in this particular video. But before then, please do wait to subscribe if you haven't shared the video and also give it a like. Thank you so much for doing so.
In the week that was, the system throws many distractions at you. So in that segment, what I try to do is take that distraction and help you to eke out the lessons that you need to learn from the systemic distractions that are thrown at you. So in the week that was, there were a few of those distractions. The Delta State PDP became APC. Oh yeah. And that's supposed to be Tinubu and the APC announcing to us the futility of resistance in 2027. So in the week that was, the PDP became the APC, and you remember that Freudian slip during the campaign, or what passed for the campaign season in 2022-2023. The PDAPC. We finally are getting to the point of the PDAPC. So you saw the movement of what was the PDP into the PDAPC. I told you long ago, back in 2015, the APC is the PDP. The PDP is the APC. One and the same. Twinned. From birth, necessarily twinned. So here is the thing. It was a distraction. Don't get it twisted. If you've been busy getting involved in the partisan divide in Delta State, open your eyes. You were just taking side in the fight of your predators, whose sole purpose is to devour you. So let's move on to the next distraction in the week that was. Oh yes, the simpleton went to beg the Oga of the wicked. So I told you from the beginning, yeah, right from the beginning, I told you, it not concern you. It's a squabble amongst thieves. They just proved it to you. I was sat in this exact seat. I think it was May last year. And I was telling you, it's none of your business. It's not your fight. Just take the lessons that are in that fight, that they are showing you in the public space. Okay, so that entire quarrel, what was it about? What was it about? Sharing the loot. It's about sharing the loot. Never had anything to do with your interest or with you. So get that clear. So, you see conclusion to that one. So you get one thing, like I tell you. Yoruba people have this proverb. Oni timba sọ fún yín pé iná ń jó lórí omi, ẹni kí n kéru ẹ̀ wá. If I tell you that there is fire atop the waters, Don't argue with me. Simply demand the ashes of me. I told you, it was never about anything of substance. They will settle it. Wicked will take his pound, the simpleton will take his pound, and the people will end up the loser as usual. So, and then in the week that was, the audacious murderers honed up to their hearts, claimed the murders on the plateau, even as the government is still talking about a communal clash. But in that week, the governor of the state had more time for postmortem on cows than he had, even for the identity of the victims being buried in mass graves in the week that was. But there was something even more troubling in the week that was. And what was that thing? On Wednesday, what date was Wednesday? Let me check now. On Wednesday, the 23rd, I was driving on Lekki Ikoyi Bridge, and I noticed, I hope I'm wrong, and those of you who are close to the powers that be, they once owned Lagos, but they now own Nigeria. Maybe you want to check this with them. I believe I saw people walking in the toll cubicles, perhaps presuming to get ready to resume tolling on the Lekki Ikoyi Bridge. I don't know if that's what it was. I hope it is not. Now, let me give you the background to this. In 2021 February, there was a credible information given to me about a plot to kill me. I submitted petitions both to the DSS and to the Nigerian police. In that time, Akeem Odumosu, now of the Lagos State Park Services, was the Lagos State Commissioner of Police. I submitted a petition naming names of persons who were conspiring to murder me. Up until this minute, not a single thing has ever been done about it. Now, here is the connection. My sources within the crime family told me that what particularly hicked the system and made the decision to murder me an imperative in February 2021 was my opposition to the reopening of the Lekki toll gates. This stems from my position that enough had been paid in blood on October 20 at Lekki toll gate. Now, let me be clear. If the Lagos state government, in spite of the fact that it offers no social services in the Lekki corridor, presumes to toll the only road in and out of our neighborhood, I don't know about others, but I know I cannot live without operation. Me, the day I need to use that bridge, if you have told it, I will park my car and I will not pay that toll. Be ready to arrest me. That is one. Two, the moment a date is announced for the resumption of that tolling, hi, Dele Farotimi, I will call for a protest to shut down that bridge. Nobody is going to profit off our back again. Let's be clear about this. It's not happening. Thank you very much. Good. I picked for myself the subject, Nigeria, the sum of his lies, a journey through time. And what is my purpose? I have come to realize that because of the full effect of weaponized ignorance, the full effect of weaponized poverty, even what should pass for the middle class, which has been rendered completely existential, we have carried on debates at variance with reality. So there is a great degree of linguistic inexactitude that governs our reasoning. We talk about democracy as though we were living in one. We speak to the rule of law as though our country was governed by laws. And then we delude ourselves and we say we are citizens when we know that we really aren't. And then we even take it further. We say we are a nation when we know that we are anything but. We are even hardly a country. And as it is, we are a failing state. So it has fallen on some of us to take it upon ourselves to remind those who are still conscious enough of what the truths are and to ensure that a record is kept, even though it may be for a generation that will come later on, to understand how we got to where we are today and where we would be getting to pretty quickly if we do not do something radical about our situation. Yorubas have a proverb. They say, Bí ọmọ ò bá bátan, dandan ni kó bá àrọ́bá. They say if a child does not know the history, at least somebody must be able to tell him of the legends. I was born 57 years ago. I have seen enough of life, lived enough of it, to be able to draw conclusions, truthful ones, based on the experience of exactly where we are headed. I'm so alarmed by where I see us headed that when I looked at everything and I saw that what we have become is the sum of the lies that we have told ourselves as a people. Nigeria was battered in lies. At its very foundations were lies. Slave traders, people who saw us as subhumans, they founded this country. It was just a colonial enterprise. There was nothing about the interest of the people trapped within its territory informing its bat. It was battered as a British idea, sold as an illusion to a people who ignored a lot of things they should have been alarmed by. But these were lies that had been around for a season, and those who had good intentions, even at the birth, were aware of these lies, the rather distinct characters of the nations that were trapped within the territory. The feudal North, the Republican Igbos, the Yorubas, who are a mishmash of different nations before we were blessed with leaders who had nationalist views and who coupled us together. These were the three tripods on which Nigeria was built. But yeah, in spite of all of these failings, in spite of everything that was wrong, why it shouldn't even have ever come together. In spite of all of that, reasonable men and women who had to take decisions in time when it was needed to be taken, right there and then. Reasonable men and women. The West, led by Obafemi Awolowo. The North, led by Ahmadu Bello. The East, led by Nnamdi Azikiwe. They all came together talking about the early 50s. There are a series of conferences. Azikiwe was insistent on unitary system as the basis for Nigerian unity of the sort. Wanted Nigeria broken up. Everybody just go their separate ways. Awolowo said, no, we can't go our separate ways the way where the British will hand you what is called Northern Nigeria. There are multiple ethnicities trapped there and minorities there. He argued. Same thing in the East. So because of this minority interest, he continued to argue. So Awolowo had planes chartered and the minorities brought both from the North and from the East. And on the basis of these minorities that were obviously present in this space, for whom a clean break of the country would have been suicidal, especially the Middle Belt. The fears of the minority was never really truly addressed, but on the ground of this, federalism was proposed as a middle ground, and I'm talking about the Lancaster House conferences. And on the foundation of those agreements, discussions, truths, it was agreed that Nigeria should have a federal constitution. Each nation that exists within that federation, which is a collection of nations, should be allowed to develop at its own pace, based on its own overarching ambition, culture, and traditions. And this was the case from 1951. The Western region had its embassy in Britain. The Northern region had one in Sudan because it was more important to it. It was a middle ground on the way to Saudi Arabia. And there were so many cultural exchanges between Khartoum and Kano. So, of course, it prioritized the embassy in Sudan. Like the southern regions, both the East and the West, prioritized relationship with the West, as it was agreed. Each person flowed as they prioritized. And there was healthy competition. Federalism was the glue that held Nigeria together. Without the glue of federalism that allows each union, each segment of the union to run as it should, there was no way Nigeria was ever going to happen. Azikiwe would never have agreed to it. Ahmadu Bello would never have agreed without federalism, and certainly Obafemi Awolowo would not have accepted it. The minorities accepted it grudgingly. They were still complaining. That was why the Willings Commission was set up. I am telling you all of these so that you can understand just exactly how far we are from where we started out, and just exactly why I spoke to the subject, the sum of its lies. That is the most important part of everything that you see in the caption, the sum of his lies. Federalism was the foundation of Nigeria, and without it, Nigeria will die. When you start talking true federalism, the lie has already entered. There is nothing called true federalism. Federalism is federalism. When you don't have federalism, You don't have federalism. The basis of Nigeria was federalism. Let each region develop according to his own priorities, his own culture. Nobody was meant to lord it over the other. Nobody would ever have agreed. I'm a Yoruba man. A Yoruba man is supposedly in power. Almost every minister is a Yoruba man. Interestingly, a few of them I know. And I'm supposed to be joyous. But all I see is putrefaction. I see. You know when they say the ripest fruit is the saddest, I believe that's Clark. Whether it was Clark or Wole Soyinka, one of them used that idiom. I'm sure it came directly from, in fact, the Yoruba proverb says, "Ogede nbaje alo npon." It can translate literally into the ripest fruit is the saddest. We're coming to the denouement, and that is why I speak to the sum of his lies. Every time you see a fruit ripened, you know it has come to the end of its cycle. Every time you see a boil ripened, you know it's coming to the end of its cycle. When the batter drum is at its loudest, you know it's coming to the point where it will tear. So yeah, the farther we have walked away from federalism, the closer we have come to the denouement. January 1966 was battered because we walked so far away from federalism. But this is even worse. We've not walked only away from federalism, we have walked away from reason. Truth was brutally murdered in 1966. And when Truth was murdered in 1966, they started remaking Nigeria. They started remaking Nigeria as the estate of a clan, where anything can be sacrificed on the altar of expediency. Building the nation be damned. A genocidal, delusional vision began to govern Nigeria. Lies began to take the place of truth. What began as 3 regions truthfully became 4 after the plebiscite and the lawful constitutional processes had been followed with the creation of the Midwest region. That Nigeria was murdered in 1966. It was injured in January to be sure, but it was decisively killed in July. And what has replaced it is the Frankenstein that is running riot in the land today. Where Nigeria was originally founded on the principle of federalism, which can only be founded in a place that is ruled by law. What has replaced it since 1966 is what is founded on the feudal vision of a people who believe that it is acceptable that persons not be equal. So Nigeria has become a feudal state, even though it masquerades as a federal state. You cannot have federalism in a place that is not governed by law, where the state is governed by the whims of men. The erection of the feudal state does not allow for the equality of men. and you therefore cannot have citizens in a place where men are not equal. I have spoken extensively to the erection of the feudal state in Nigeria. I wrote a book on it. I entitled it The Imperatives of the Nigerian Revolution. It came on the realization of the fact that a Nigerian is not a citizen. That book was written at least about 4 years ago or thereabout. I made it available to all of you for free download, and it's been available for free download less than 6 months after it was written. I had a link posted again so that you might find the grace, download it, read, so that I will not have to waste time having to clue you up, taking you on a journey through time. Because what has happened to us from 1966 is that the will of the Nigerian people has not mattered in the erection of the state that has developed or evolved. What has happened since that time is that in the erection of the Nigerian state, the imperatives of men who have not bothered to consult has been the basis for the erection of the state. From having 4 regions, today, Nigeria is a state, quote and unquote, an unraveling, failing state of 36 states that the judiciary has effectively made 37 states, which is interpretation of the Abuja dichotomy. Here is the point I am making to you. We have come full circle, the erection of the feudal state. When the president who did not elect, who INEC has forced on us, and who the judiciary has deodorized, would sit down and demonstrate the power to remove a governor who, by the way, we did not equally elect but was forced on the people of Rivers. Because there is already that division between the persons who are meant to be citizens and those who govern them. The people of Rivers who knew that Similarity is not the person that they elected or would have elected if their voices had mattered. Of course, even though you might have ethnic affiliations and you might have situations where people might be like, okay, out of sympathy, as I saw a lot of you picking side, the reality is that the persons who are governing are divorced from the people. So the man in Abuja knows that he is the one. He could have actually had Similarity not confirmed as the governor because he knows he owns the judiciary. But he deploys the powers in his office to do what he needed to do to retain the APC and to retain Similarity there for his man, Wike. And when the time came and Similarity was behaving as if he had some independence, of course he was cut to size. You heard what Wike told you. If he had his way, he would have removed the guy. But the president said, no, let's suspend him. It tells you where we are. So what you're saying, what I need you to understand is that your state has come full circle. Today, Nigeria is a dictatorship. We are not in a democracy. And what I am saying is suggesting to me that with the announcement in Rivers, a signal has been sent to other hegemonies that the hegemony will no longer tolerate dissent and opposition. And you saw the speed with which the Rivers man confirmed his transfer to the APC column. And you already know that a lot more will be following suit in days to come. Now let me clue you in on something. Whilst other candidates were busy trying to buy delegates, Tinubu was buying godfathers in the APC primaries. He was buying governors, the fathers of the delegates. Those were the persons Tinubu was buying. Don't imagine that Tinubu is buying sitting governors. He's not. He is buying their godfathers, the persons who kept them there. And the ones he can't buy, he's intimidating into aligning. So what you're saying are the alignments of the politicians whether forced or voluntary, whether based on real politics or whatever. The important thing that you should pay attention to is that the politicians are aligning. They are arraying a Tinubu that will not lose an election, quote and unquote, whilst out of office, running almost against the incumbent. Is now in power. There's a difference between being in office and being in power. He is now in power, and the articles of this world are busy thinking that they can contest against him. Illusions. The people are the ones who need to be aligning. Without an alignment of the people, what you would have is that the election result will be announced ahead of time, and you can be certain that the judiciary will endorse it. Akpabio is sat in the Senate as the Senate president today because your constitution, pardon my French, is crap. Your judiciary, unfit for purpose. That is the only reason he sat there. Ditto for your president. So if you are expecting something to happen because politicians are squabbling over who won or did not win an election, you're wasting your time. So if you're waiting for an election to save Nigeria, you've lost already. Let me just announce that. The only thing that can save us is a revolution. Did you hear me? Only a revolution can save Nigeria. Because the sum of his lies is that Nigeria has become a place that is unconducive for human existence. It's become hostile. If you sustain the current system, Nigeria will erupt in a civil war. It's already in one. The only problem is that the lines are not defined. But if it continues on its current trajectory, Nigeria will implode. People are dying in the Benue Trough, murdered like dogs. In fact, with less care than you would for dogs. But the governor of the state, who is divorced from the people because he knows his people do not matter, Abuja matters, is more interested in the autopsy of cows than in the identification of persons as young as days old being buried in mass graves. That is the governor, a member of the ethnic nationality being killed in their sleep, misdescribed and mischaracterized as farmers' others clashes. He knows that this is not the truth, but he would rather remain in power than tell the truth to power. Oh, did I say in power? No, it's too important to be described as being in power. He would rather remain in office than to assert the power of his people against the unconscionable powers that would dare to crow in daytime about the murder of his people and mischaracterize it as farmers' elders clash. Or what does one have to say really? When a reverend father, the Catholic Church should really be ashamed of that thing that they have in Benue State, will be playing politics with IDP camps, will rather be silent about the murder of his people and is busy issuing visa bans. Like, seriously? The sum of Nigeria's lies is that we are getting to the point where these lies, in fact, beyond an implosion, really, if you really think about it, was it not just the other day that the governor of Niger State came out and banned dreadlocks? So I couldn't have gone to Niger State in 2020, 2021 because I had dreadlocks. I'd probably have been whooped especially since I talk so much. And of course, talkers are now terrorists, and the terrorists can be made repentant. It's the talkers who never get to repent. Terrorists are always repentant. Yeah. Which brings me to that one. Okay, so Nigeria has this extremely successful deradicalization program. It deradicalizes terrorists, Islamist terrorists, Fulani marauders, killers. It deradicalizes them so quickly that I wonder if the whole thingy about Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, what would have been necessary for America if we have simply employed the Nigerian army to be deradicalizing them. So now, this deradicalization program, I raised this on Twitter in the last week, that is so effective that they even recently graduated 390 murderers who have repented. And then they took these 390 murderers and de-radicalized them. And I wonder how many IPOB terrorists, and that's for the benefit of you idiots who can understand satire, how many of them have you de-radicalized? So Nnamdi has been with you for a few years now, but you can't de-radicalize him. He's not de-radicalizable. He's the one that has defied your de-radicalization capacity. And we are still in a country that makes sense. How long do you really reckon that this can continue? How long? The point is, the sum of Nigeria's lies is that where it is cannot be sustained. But I must say, since I have already said that a revolution is our only way out, and I stand by those words, but it is critical in this season, where critical voices are silenced, either by murdering them or by contriving a legal entrapment. The word revolution comes from the French word revolver, and it means to turn around. If Nigeria does not turn around, it will implode. A turnaround is a return at a minimum, if it is still possible to save Nigeria, even with that. At a minimum, there has to be a return to federalism. I'm not going to fall into the trap of using that your lie that you call true federalism. There has to be a return to federalism. The totality of my involvement in the public space must be cleared up, because yesterday I was at the Obedient rally, the Southwest rally in Ikeja GRA, and I made clear to everyone, I'm not about an election in 2027. I'm about change today. I'm about making sure that if there will be an election in 2027, it is found on the principle of my vote counting, not an INEC that remains as it is not going to happen. And even that might not be enough to save Nigeria. The kind of revolution I'm looking for is non-violent. I'm not saying the state will not be violent, but I'm not calling for violence. The kind of revolution I'm calling for would involve sit-at-homes. It will involve boycotts, but it must be an insistence that Nigeria turn around. That is the kind of revolution I'm willing to sign on for. And that is the kind of revolution that I will be calling for. But I would prefer that that revolution be through the electoral process. And if the electoral process is thwarted, we'll be ready to take to the streets or sit in our homes. But I am not ready to get involved in an electoral process that does not spell out what the following day will look like, because it cannot be business as usual. The electoral process I'm willing to sign on for must be one that shows the people clearly if we won election the day we are sworn in, these are the legislations for restructuring. These are the policy for education. This is on every issue. There must be a revolutionary turnaround, and that must be the basis of engagement with the people. And it must be clear to the people getting involved in that process from day one that if our will is thwarted, our collective will clearly demonstrated, is thwarted by the concerted effort of the judiciary or HINEC or the police. Even if you have properly educated the people, how is the police inured or immune from the problem that has overtaken our land? Have you been to any police station in recent days? The police suffers more than me and you. That is the kind of revolution that I'm willing to sign on to. One where the police is unwilling to, if they're even telling the person giving the order that is crazy, you go and shoot on them, because his own children are likely to be there because you sold them a vision of what tomorrow will look like. The sum of Nigeria's lies is that yesterday is dead and it does not seem to have a future if you do not envision one to be sold to the people clearly, because the sum of his lies suggests that Nigeria should not be allowed to live, because it is a perverse, horrible place that is very unjust and is inhuman in the extreme. So, fact of the matter is, the Nigeria that was battered is dead. If you ever doubted it, it's been shown to you. The man that will pronounce a fatwa on dreadlocks, did you see the video? And he's little different from a whole lot of others. This Nigeria, as it stands, is dead. If you do not reimagine the future and sell that future to the people, you and I, God forbid, I have sufficient brains. I think I might manage to find my way out before it gets to that kind of level. But I assure you, I am assuring you, this Nigeria, the sum of his lies means that it is dead. It is either dead or it is dying, depending on where you stand. But the reality is, anything that is built on lies dies. Ab initio, when something is built on lies, it is already dead. It's not even that it dies, because lies, you know the nature of lies. If you told a single lie, you will require at least 20 lies to undergird the single lie. And for each of the 20 that you have told, you are going to require additional lies, 20 for another one. So you get lost in the lies, and those are the contradictions that you see tearing Nigeria apart today. It will eventually kill it. Now, your ability or capacity to imagine a future that can be sold to the people about a better future that they can buy into, that is what may save it and take the place of bloodshed and lead it perhaps to a peaceful revolution. That is the only path that remains viable, because this Nigeria, I'm telling you today, imagine me as a doctor who has reviewed the diagnosis. I've looked, and I'm telling this to you right here and now. I have looked at the x-rays. I've seen the CT scans. I've seen the blood works. And I am not a man given to delusions. The evidence of my eyes, my brain tells me that if we continue on this pathway, what has already been started would be completed. Nigeria is dead or dying. Pick your own diagnosis, but the only thing that is certain is that if it continues along this path, it will certainly end up in the morgue. Now, it is up to you to decide if you take my diagnosis seriously. But you are not helpless. Even if you are a separatist, Surely, surely, there must be a point where we can find common ground to confront this system peacefully, uniting our people before it goes bust. I'll try my best. I'm trying my best. I'm talking to you. But remember, once upon a time, instead of talking to you, I used to write. For every single one of the things I would talk about, I would have written about it. And then I found that your focus on existence, on surviving, has rendered you almost incapable of reflection. So you guys rarely read. So I came to find you where you are. So I started talking to you. But before I started talking to you, I wrote a piece. I titled it, I Do Not Write For You. You may want to check it out on my website because it's about the same thing that is happening even now. When you are giving scandals to feast on, oh, it grows. Everybody goes haywire. They want a piece of the action. It spreads. But when you are offered truths, rarely gets round. So just like you don't read, you also rarely pay attention except what the person is saying is scandalous or sensational. So very soon, we're going to get to the point where you are going to also understand. I actually also, are you guys hearing me? Okay. So I actually also do not speak for you. Yeah, you heard me. I do not speak for you. Just like I didn't write for you, I stopped writing for you because you don't read. I also do not speak for you. I'm speaking against you. I'm bearing witness that you were told. You were told. Others came before me and told you. Fela told you. You didn't listen. You called him Amubu. Or your fathers and mothers called him Amubu. A lot came before me. There were people like Beko, there was Gani, there is Yele. A lot of people came before me. They told you. You don't listen. But I will continue to speak because a generation would come who will seek the truth and they will find the truth because they will find these records. They will find them in videos, they will find them in books. And perhaps they will retrace their steps and go back. If ever there will be a chance for Nigeria, it will be because Nigeria found its way back and unraveled the sum of its lies. The only way Nigeria can survive is if there is federalism. Without it, it's surely dead. It's just a matter of time. The human spirit rebels against injustice. You cannot build a modern state on the back of feudalism. There cannot be an acceptable non-equality of men in a country as blessed as Nigeria. Hegemonies grow nations. There would have been absolutely nothing wrong with having an Islamic hegemony developing Nigeria. After all, Islamic hegemonies have developed Dubai, the Emirates. They've developed Qatar. The Middle East is largely ahead of the West on the back of Islamic hegemonies. The hegemony in Nigeria is not Islamic. They are munafiqs. There's absolutely nothing Islamic about this hegemony. It's an evil, rabid hegemony found on greed that cares nothing for the people. And until that hegemony is removed and the primacy of citizenship is restored and the law rules in our land, the only thing that will happen to Nigeria is that it will die. For your sake and mine, for those of our children, I dare say even for the sake of the black race, just as our fathers found the grace of compromise in spite of their different impulses to allow federalism to govern Nigeria, I plead with each and every one of those who are stoking the fires of war in Nigeria today. And if you doubt the fact that feudalism has overtaken Nigeria and federalism is dead, let me offer you one final proof. Local governments are creation of federating units. But in Nigeria today, between Tinubu's Attorney General and the Supreme Court, local governments are now independent of the states, further taking away the powers of the federating units and creating a unitary state. The capture of the judiciary has assured that whatever this hegemony decides Nigeria is what it is. The only thing is that it will not and cannot be sustained. Injustice can never be sustained, at least not peacefully. So it means that for this hegemony to get its way, Nigeria will be locked into a cycle of perpetual warfare. That is not my vision for my children's future. I don't know if it's already too late. I don't know. But what I do know is this. If we don't do something drastic to change the current trajectory of the Nigerian state, it is dead. Make what you will of what I have said. I've merely taken you on a journey through time, trying to look at the sum of Nigeria's lies. Have a blessed week ahead. I'm going to see you next week. God bless.